Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. I'm back after a couple weeks. Took a trip to Colorado. Couldn't get a recording done there. Had COVID. Couldn't record there because I felt like shit. But I'm back. And with me is the return of Lucas after a 2-week break from having his second baby in a year. So if you message Lucas on the old socials, be sure to congratulate him on the newest arrival. Today's show, we're going to talk a little about my experience in Colorado. It's the first time on an airplane in an airport. Airports kind of suck, I found out. Not as glamorous as they are in the movies. Colorado was awesome, though. Found my dream job there. So if you're listening to this, powers that be in Ohio, make sure you make a legalized marijuana thing here because I would like to work in that industry, be honest with you. Sounds like a lot of fun. We're also going to talk a little World Cup action. They announced the host cities for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Going to talk a little DeShaun Watson, what we think his suspension is going to be. What do the Browns do with Baker Mayfield? Do they keep him now just to play it safe? They get him out of town. And we're also going to talk about Vince McMahon not being able to keep his piece in his pants. Ought to be a fun episode. So after the guitar riff, the Couch Potato Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Couch Potato Podcast. I am Russ, and after a crazy couple of weeks, we are back on the air. And with me is also the return of Lucas. Lucas, what's going on, man? I know you've been very busy here recently. How's being a father again for the second time in, a little over a year?
Yeah, she was actually born about a week before my son's first birthday, so...
Yeah,
2 babies in under a year. It's insane. I don't recommend it for anybody if you like to sleep.
Well, I do like sleep too. I've been through that. I can't imagine. I don't want to call it a nightmare because kids are awesome, even though they drive you nuts. But I can't imagine the hellish landscape of having to deal with a 1-year-old and a newborn.
Yeah, and he just started walking, so he's walking all over the place, throwing everything on the ground, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's going to be the theme of today's show is keeping it in your pants.
Yeah. Yeah. Old Vince.
Yeah. Well, I know for me, I had planned on doing an episode. My wife and I, we took a trip to Colorado, which was awesome. I discovered first time in a marijuana dispensary, like a legal, and I tell you what, man.
You haven't been in one. Because here where we are, it's medical only, and you have to have an actual card. So
yeah, and then we went to the state up north, and they have it to where if you don't have a medical card, you can, at least when I went, you can wait in this lobby.
Yeah.
So I kind of hung out in the lobby, but yeah, this is my first time going into one, and I tell you what, dude, this is my fucking dream job.
Is it?
Oh, dude, they have people that work the front desk, and it's they basically get paid to smoke weed and take edibles and stuff, and then they give you their expert advice on stuff.
Yeah.
It's oh, hey, I'm looking for something, that kind of mellowed me out a little bit, but I don't want too much of a head, a head high. I just want a body high. Oh, well, here we have the peaches and herb, it's a very smooth, mellow high where, it kind of takes the edge off, but you still have your functions about you. And I'm just listening to them describe this. I'm fuck, I need to do this.
Well, only if you're going to do it in that voice, too.
Oh, I'll totally do it. If Ohio makes it legal to where I could get a job doing it, yeah, I'm just going to be that is research that I will devote 24 hours, 7 days a week doing. And, I will be the gold standard for marijuana sales in Ohio.
Well, since I have my medical card, I actually have a new one that I'm smoking on right now as we're talking, and it's a 1-to-1, so there's a lot of CBD in here, so it'll actually help my back pain.
Yeah, see, I could totally do that. It has an earthy, a cinnamon kickback, which gives you the impression of. I liken it myself to morning cinnamon rolls with coffee.
That'd be so fucking cool.
Oh, it would be. Yeah, dude, I was in one of those. I was fuck, if I could get paid to do this, like I would be in fucking hog heaven.
So what was it like? So here, let me describe you what the medical ones look like here that I've been in. So I've been in 2 different dispensaries. They're both in the city that you live. So when you walk in, there's like a lobby. Guy takes your info, and then they take you back into this locked door room. Mm-hmm. And when you're in there, one of them has like display cases in the middle where you can look at different products like grinders and vape batteries and stuff like that. You can look at all that, and then you go up to a desk, and they've got the menu up on the wall. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, I imagine Colorado is like one of those ones where you go into a candy store and you just like twist the fucking bottom. You just measure it all out.
I was expected to be like, kind of like the scene in Anchorman when him and Veronica have sex for the first time. You see like those like that cartoon like pony on the rainbow and stuff, and they have that song playing. Yeah. And like all these like buds and edibles just come flying at you, and you're just it's right. It's nothing like that. We went to 2. One was actually a very cool name. It was called Strawberry Fields, which was named after the Beatles song, and it was kind of I guess for lack of a better term, it's kind of in a janky area. Like you had to go up this staircase, and there was a guy waiting, like a security guard. He was waiting in a room. You could only go, like a couple people could go back at a time.
Yeah.
So we went in there, and it was just set up kind of like, it looked like the counter of a convenience store where they keep all the cigarettes and stuff. And like, it used to be like before the internet took over porn, like, like that's where they kept the dirty magazines, the cigarettes and shit like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they both were. We went to another one when we first got there that was a little bit more upscale. It still looked like it had the bars like somebody's house. Like, you're not breaking into my house. I've got the steel bars all over the windows.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit more upscale, I guess. It had like LED screens that kind of give you the menu and let you know the pricing and shit. And then they had like a little like an L-shaped display case with like all the different products and shit they offered.
Very cool.
Yeah, they make you show your ID, and it was seriously so fucking cool. Like, man, like Ohio, you need to get on the ball. You need legalized marijuana, and you need sports gambling. That would maybe entice me to stay a little bit more.
Yeah, instead of having to go on vacation to better places.
Right. And then, of course, we come back. It was my first time in an airport, too. And I will just say that my first flight was not what I expected it to be.
How so?
Well, first off, I kind of expected them to be a little bit more spacious than they were. I kind of felt like I was crammed into like a can of sardines.
Yeah.
And airport people are the most entitled fucking people I have ever met in my life.
Yeah.
On the flight home, my wife and I had to, we sat in the same aisle, but we were divided, where we sat in the same row, but we were divided by the aisle. So we both had the aisle seats.
Right.
And there was a woman that was eating a Cobb salad that just fucking smelled like somebody had killed a skunk or a squirrel and threw it in there. It smelled so fucking bad. And we had masks on, and she's just devouring this thing. Like, took her almost the whole flight to fucking eat it.
That's terrible.
Yeah, people bump into
you. Was it a
you.
direct flight?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that's good at least.
But yeah, I just kind of expected it to be one of those things where, like I see in the movies, like, oh, there's plenty of leg room, like that big open. Nope, it's just like 2 rows, 3 seats, 2 rows, 3 seats per aisle, and it's just like, yeah, nothing I expected. And like we had a little bit of a rough turbulence. Coming into
my biggest fear.
That wasn't bad though. I was just like, well, I guess if this is the way I'm going, this is the way I'm going. I guess can't really parachute out the back.
That's true.
And then when we were waiting to board our flight, I didn't know they did this, but they board you by they have like a group, a B group, C group, whatever.
Yeah,
so
and you pick your seats.
The flight home, I think, was pretty much a full flight. So my wife and I decided to get the jump and try to get to the head of because we were the last group to board.
So you were C?
Yeah, we were the C group. So like, fuck it, we're going to hop in here. We're going to be the first ones to get in so we can at least attempt to sit together.
Yeah.
Well, this old lady just comes up to me, just starts shooting a shit and just fucking cuts me right in line. And just not even apologetic about it. She was just bitching about, oh, my girlfriend and I are, I don't want to get separated from her. We got separated on the flight here. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to prevent with my wife and I. She's like, nope, didn't care. Just kept talking to me like she didn't just blatantly cut to the front of the line or nothing. And then just the whole terminal, people just cut in front of you. You try to get coffees, people being rude about that. And I was like, this place fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And of course, we get home a couple days later, bring home that son of a bitch COVID, hits my whole house.
Yeah. How is everyone doing?
Oh, everyone's good now. Luckily, my wife and I are both vaccinated, got the boosters. Not going to turn this into a political discussion for people listening out there. We decided to get the old vaccine. If I grow a horn later on, so be it. It wasn't hateful. We felt like shit for a few days. Still struggling with my sense of taste and smell a little bit. Just now got over primarily the fatigue aspect where, it was kicking my ass for a few days, just feeling tired and shit.
Yeah, I've been there.
Kids doing okay. Yeah, the isolation kind of sucks, though, just not being able to do much.
Yeah, well, you're not, you guys are like out of the house a lot. You guys are on the go a lot, so being in the house is quite the contrast to what you're used to.
Yeah. But it has given me an opportunity to really sink my teeth into a bunch of shit, though, so I've been able to, dig in and do a lot of reading, catching up on, sports, movies, TV, wrestling, music, shit that I haven't been able to devote as much time to, so.
Oh, yeah, I meant to tell you. So my son, he grabs my Xbox controller all the time.
Oh, when you said your Xbox controller, I was like, so my son accidentally honks my goose.
Oh, no, that does happen, and that's painful.
Yeah.
Especially when it's falling down.
And my daughter's big thing is she'll stand up when I'm sitting in a chair and just grinds her foot like she's putting out cigarette butt right on my crotch.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, so he grabs my controller, and he knows how to turn on the Xbox, and I have it programmed to where whatever turns on the TV, my receiver automatically switches over to it. So he was playing with the joystick, and he went down and he hit the A button, and he kept hitting it, and I wasn't paying attention. He's always on there. I thought, he might start a game up or whatever. No, he bought the movie Ambulance.
I watched that. Good movie.
Well, I own it now, so.
That was a good movie. We watched it on Sunday because it's on the cock.
Yeah, I knew it was free somewhere, which makes it even more fun that I spent $22 on a movie that I didn't even buy.
If it makes you feel any better, I sat on my remote control the other day and bought the Batman, even though we have HBO Max, so we can watch it whenever we want. But yeah, I own the Batman now.
That's a good one to own, though. That's a good movie.
Yeah. Well, a lot to dig into on today's episode. Nice catching up with you for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be honest with you, when I decided to record this tonight, leading up to this, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck we're going to talk about. This is a time of the year where it's kind of slow in sports. There's no football really. Baseball to me is always really kicked into steam probably after the 4th of July.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be one of these people that pretends to watch the NBA all the time. I don't. So the NBA finals, I kind of tuned in a little bit. I've been trying to catch the Stanley Cup finals when I can, but I'm not that knowledgeable of hockey to be able to speak to it clearly. So
seems like Tampa Bay is always there. Golden State's always there in the NBA.
Right.
So.
Right. But despicable people, they decided to make my job easy this week. So
speaking of the cock.
Right. But first, I know you and I we didn't get a really chance to text about this, but you're a big soccer fan.
I am.
Probably a topic that maybe we'll create a segment. We'll give you like Lucas's 3 good soccer minutes or Lucas's soccer minute or something.
Our overseas listeners will love it.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that we seem to do pretty well with the soccer community, at least countries that are good at soccer. The United States not being one of them. But was that the 2026, right?
Yeah.
They announced the host cities for the World Cup. So, do you have the field handy before we dive into this?
I am going to pull up the list real quick. I had it, but once again, my son likes to grab my phone also and do whatever he wants with it. So he closed what I was looking at. All right. Host cities. All right. So this will be the first World Cup where there is 48 teams. Right now they're at 32.
Before you get into that, we are recording on June the 17th. And it just made me think of the on this day in 94, the World Cup kicked off in the United States.
Yep, that's right. This
is a huge sports day in 94. I'm just trying to rattle off the top of my head. World Cup was in Chicago, I believe. I think it kicked off in Chicago. The New York Rangers had their Stanley Cup parade in New York City. It was game 3, I believe, or 4 of the NBA Finals. And this was the day of the infamous O.J. Simpson Bronco chase.
The day that changed my life forever. My dad watched every single day of that trial.
Well, my brother and I were big basketball fans as kids, and we were actually trying to watch the Knicks and the Rockets. Because one of my brother's favorite players as a kid was Hakeem Olajuwon. So he's like super stoked he's in the finals. And yeah, they gave you a box. It's probably the size of a postcard. And then the rest of the TV was just the LA Police Department chasing OJ on the LA freeway.
And for our younger listeners, the TVs weren't widescreen like they are now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a box essentially. It was 4x3. So when they went picture in picture on you, like they did for that chase, your picture in picture was awfully small.
Mm-hmm.
Because TVs were fucking expensive and heavy the bigger that you went. So like a 32-inch, if you had a 32-inch tube TV, you were pretty much set.
Yeah, it's like it's like suplexing Roman Reigns as we try to pick that up. There's just segue real quick. If you have a chance, if you have ESPN Plus, there's a really cool 30 for 30 about this day that you can watch. I think it's called June 17th or 6/17/94, something like that. Find it on there. Awesome documentary. But go ahead. What are the host cities for the 2026 World Cup?
So, this expanded to 48 teams. Well, it's the first time it's 3 countries hosting it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the United States is going to do the majority, more than likely, of the hosting.
So, did the United States win the bid, or did Canada, Mexico, and the United States, kind of like North America, put in the bid for it?
It was North America.
Okay, I didn't know if that was the case or not.
So it was North America against Morocco was the other final bidder.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the 94 World Cup, like you were talking about, is still the highest attended World Cup of all time, even though it was in 94. And there's 32 teams now. I think there was only 24 then. So there was even less games, and it still had the most attendance of all time.
Now, have they expanded the field just because of soccer's popularity growing from 94 till now, or?
It's FIFA wanting more money, really.
Oh, yeah,
because
I guess it makes sense.
There's going to be some really bad countries in there. Like, we're going to see from our region alone, so there's not going to be any qualifying.
You just pay money and you're in? So there's going to be like a traveling team, like a community college somewhere?
Yeah. No, it's since the U.S., Mexico, and Canada are the host countries, as the host, you're automatically in.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get teams like El Salvador, Costa Rica, Honduras, maybe even Guatemala from this region, or like fucking Cuba or somebody horrible.
Please welcome Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. They actually used to be good at one point.
Oh, really? Yeah. Shows you how much I know about soccer.
So in Canada, Edmonton, Toronto, and Vancouver are the Canadian teams, although that doesn't no, it was just Vancouver and Toronto. Edmonton put in a bid. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it didn't sound right. I thought they only got 2 venues. I was trying to see. So BMO Field is where Toronto FC plays, and that's going to be one of the host cities. So an MLS team with a soccer-specific stadium is actually going to host a World Cup game, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
In Mexico City, which will have its 3rd World Cup hosting. They did 1986 and I think 1970 for the 2 years that they hosted already. Monterrey and Guadalajara are also going to be host cities. And then in the United States, which is what, you and I would mostly care about, or anybody that could possibly go to a game, they're going to be really fucking expensive. New York / New Jersey. I'm surprised they actually called it New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And New York just wasn't like, no, fuck you, that's ours.
No, I didn't get a chance to see the stadiums for. Well, go ahead, name them off, and then I'll come up with my question next.
Well, I can name off the stadiums if you'd like to.
Well, I was just curious, is it all football, like mostly football stadiums? Because you said Mexico City's got one.
Yeah.
Now, is that where they host the when the NFL goes to Mexico City? Is that where they have? Okay.
Yeah, Estadio Azteca. So they got MetLife Stadium which is in New Jersey, but it's where the New York teams play.
In New York.
New York. You got AT&T Stadium in Dallas. You have
You're
Arrowhead.
goddamn right, I got World Cup game. I'm going to see if I can host the finals.
Actually, that wouldn't be a bad place to have the final. That'd be really cool. Place holds about 100,000, I think, with soccer games.
When you think of American football, you think of the Dallas Cowboys, and you're going to think world football, you're going to think Dallas Cowboys too. That's a horrible
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for coming on to our show.
Y'all, you're welcome, boys. I'm going to dip on out.
One of the surprise selections was Kansas City. The only reason it's a surprise is because they had the option also of Denver and Cincinnati, which I never thought. You asked me about Cincinnati, I think, before we came on. Cincinnati was probably never going to actually get the bid because they'd have to spend $10 million to change the field dimensions, because the soccer field is a lot wider than an NFL football field is. So,
yeah, I don't know. That doesn't strike me as like, I mean, the fucking Cincinnati Bengals don't even have an indoor training facility for their team at the moment. They're not going to sink $10 million into hosting. It would just be 1, maybe 2 games, right? Or do they? No, they do them in like pockets, kind of like they do with the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they would hold probably at least 6 games, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they would have to replace the field is turf. They would have to replace it all with natural grass.
Yeah, Paul Brown ain't doing that.
No. NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington, which is actually a really big deal. Seattle is probably one of the bigger soccer markets in the USA. So them getting that is actually really cool. Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Levi Stadium in San Francisco. I don't know why this is cutting off, but I know that they're doing it at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough.
Mm-hmm. Home of the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean they're calling it. They call that one Boston.
Well, yeah, New England's essentially the Boston's football team.
Yeah. But isn't Foxborough like 30 minutes away from Boston?
Well, I mean, it's no different than the New York Jets and the New York Giants playing in Jersey.
That's true. And then Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida.
Now, I am shocked that SoFi and LA didn't get it. I guess San Francisco.
They did.
SoFi got it?
Yeah, sorry. That's this list. If you look at my phone, I know that people listening can't see it, but
Just imagine an iPhone 13. You have the Max, right?
Yeah.
Just imagine it in Lucas's chiseled, dick-battered hand. Years and years of abuse in that hand.
Well, yeah. And that's until, I started making all these babies every year.
Yeah.
Yes, it is at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles.
Okay. Well. So how do they put these? Do they just is it a blind bid, or do they how does this bidding process work for these stadiums to get these? So
there's a limited. You have to have at least 48,000 seats, I believe, is the FIFA number, which most of the American football stadiums that we have here in America can hold that anyway. Mm-hmm. That'd be like a really small football stadium for us. But the teams or the cities typically get together with a team and they put in a bid. Like for Cincinnati, it was all of Hamilton County put in that bid. So they'll pay money for it. I don't know how much, but they will pay for the bid. And
isn't FIFA a very crooked organization anyways?
Oh yeah, they're money thieves.
So yeah, just not enough.
It's kind of like the IOC, they're crooked as shit too. Mm-hmm. They put in their bids and then they narrow. FIFA comes out, looks at the stadiums, looks at the area, tells them what needs improved, what can this and that, and then they narrow it down to the final couple cities. And then on yesterday they announced the host cities.
Does the market itself, like the TV market or whatever, does that have anything to do with it? Because I would imagine that places like LA, New York have an obvious advantage over somebody like Cincinnati or Denver or somebody like that.
Well, they only have the advantage because of population. America's so diverse. The TV numbers don't really matter so much for the World Cup because there's going to be 5-6 billion people that watch it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that makes sense because Chicago didn't get.
Which shocked the hell out of me because Chicago had one in '94, like you said, and Soldier Field, they've just updated it.
They updated that not too long ago. Yeah, it was like less than 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
And a lot of USA and Mexico, a lot of their games that they play against each other is in Chicago because it's such a nice stadium. It's so diverse. There's a lot of Mexicans that live in Chicago, so that helps Mexico. But I was really surprised that they didn't have Chicago on there.
Now, are all of these host cities, are they going to have the pools, or is it going to be kind of like how they do with I'm sorry if these questions sound ignorant. I'm not a big soccer guy, so you're schooling me, so this is good. So are these are each one of these cities going to be like Dallas is going to have pool C, and then Kansas City is going to have pool F? Or is it one of those things like the NCAA tournament, certain cities will have certain rounds and then it'll go to they'll converge onto another city for a certain round of games, and then after that they'll go to another city, and then one city will only host the final?
Well, I was trying to count up the amount of stadiums that we're actually hosting. If I had to guess, they're probably going to all host group games. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the knockout rounds, they'll go to the bigger stadiums and markets like you were talking about. So probably Seattle, Atlanta, Los Angeles, New York, and probably Mexico City. Mexico City is going to host a lot too. I would be surprised if they didn't host like a semifinal, because that stadium's there's so much history there. Like Maradona's hand of God goal, where he actually put his hand up and knocked it into the goal instead of heading the ball, and that was a big thing back in '86. It was a big controversy. So they're gonna have one, at the very least a semifinal, I would think. And then if I had to guess, another semifinal, probably Dallas. And then if I was a betting man, I would say New York will probably have the final.
Okay, I was going to ask you, who do you think is going to have the final game?
Yeah, they won't announce it again. Like, I think probably 2 years. They'll probably tell us game schedule, start releasing tickets, and say who the host cities are going to be. Because FIFA likes to make a big fucking spectacle of it.
Of course. It's
like an hour-long TV show just to tell us that one stadium is going to have a game, shit like that.
Hey, you know what, though, man? That's how you blow up the game. I mean, it's not like the NFL draft special or the release schedule or anything like that, but...
Yeah. Well, not here, at least. Overseas, probably a bigger deal, I'm sure.
I do remember a conversation that you and I had years ago that when the North America was announced they're going to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup, you said you were going. So is that still in the cards? I mean, it's still a few years away, but
I'm going to do everything I can, short of letting my kids starve. So it's still in the cards for me. But we'll see. I don't know, man. Those tickets are going to be so expensive. FIFA does like a lottery, so you put your name into a lottery and you get chosen to buy tickets. And if you're not on that and you got to buy aftermarket, they're going to start at least $20,000.
Jesus, $20,000?
Yeah. World Cup tickets are outrageous.
God damn. Is that the going rate for the FIFA, the World Cup games, and was that Qatar?
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know. I haven't even looked at tickets in that, but I bet you that they're probably at least $10,000.
Really? That's the World Cup. They moved that to the fall, didn't they?
They're doing the winter because it's in the Middle Eastern desert. Like they had play-in games. It was Australia and Peru, Costa Rica, and New Zealand were the last 4 teams that could get in, kind of like a first 4 they do for basketball. And they had it in Qatar, and they had to have water breaks during the game because it was over 100 degrees for both games.
You know what, though? It wouldn't have been a problem if they just would have brought old Bobby Boucher in there.
That's true. We need a water boy.
That's that high-quality H2O right there.
She showed me her boobies. I like them very much, too.
Mama said.
Speaking of boobies, Vince McMahon.
Well, I was going to segue into what the fuck's going on with your Browns, but we can talk about Vince McMahon.
Hey, you know what? We got all kinds of like sexual harassment / hush money / so we could go either way.
Okay, we'll go into that next. This is the sexual deviant part of the program. What the fuck's up with your Browns, man? Like, there was a story that came out today, I believe. Let me check out the notes here. But this story broke while I was in Colorado, and I had tweeted about it briefly. But today, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Well, actually, this is Mark Maskey of the Washington Post. This is through Mike Florio's Pro Football Talk, but Mike Maskey of the Washington Post. Got to give credit where credit's due. I don't need a lawsuit on my hands. I mean, even though neither one of those guys are going to listen to this show anyways. Maybe Mike Florio if he's bored. But the NFL is seeking a significant suspension for Browns quarterback DeShaun Watson of up to at least a year.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it was any less than 10 games. But what's going on with my Browns is they're so desperate to win that this supposed research they did, they clearly, I mean, When they said they didn't talk to any of the alleged victims, I was like, oh, this was a really bad idea.
Yeah, because there's been two more cases that have, two more lawsuits that have come up in recent weeks. Then there's that the New York Times article that the Texans knew this shit was going on. They were even, like, their legal team was giving DeShaun Watson, like, non-disclosure agreements to give to these masseuses. I don't understand how the fuck you're going to give somebody a $500 million contract guaranteed. If I'm spending that kind of money, I'll put it to you like this. I did my due diligence on buying my laptop, which cost me $600.
Yeah.
I made sure, like, I'm getting my money's worth. Like, this thing isn't going to shit out on me. It's going to do what I need it to do. That's $600. This is $250 million. And now the Browns, who ESPN, they've even said, like, they had them as a top 10 team going into the preseason. They may not even, like, they're going to go into the season with Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback for the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know how I feel about Baker Mayfield. I think he's a horrible quarterback. Mm-hmm. But he's probably better than Jacoby Brissett. So the due diligence thing, like, how I don't understand what they were thinking. The only thing that I can think of is they thought that because he did nothing criminal, allegedly. I mean, we can't even say allegedly. I mean, he was found not guilty by two different grand juries in two different counties, I believe. So
yeah.
So criminally, he did nothing wrong. So they were probably thinking, since it's not criminal, that it won't come back as bad on them. Would be the only mindset that I could think of that they were doing. I mean, I saw the real-time sports. Is that what the show's called, Bryant Gumbel?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Brian Gumbel.
Yeah.
This is Real Sports.
That was really good.
All you got to do is sound like a white guy.
Check.
Yep.
And, listening to the stories, and they're all so similar. And it's just, the guy clearly has some kind of masseuse porn fetish that he apparently has to exercise or something. I don't know. The whole thing's fucking bizarre. It's a bizarre thing. Like, you're an NFL quarterback, you can get whoever you want, and you go and you decide that that article you were talking about could be up to 60 women that he did this to. Mm-hmm. Which is incredible. I did see that the NFLPA, so what you're talking about with the significant suspension, I don't have the tweets up in front of me that you were talking about earlier. I do know that the NFL is pushing for at least a year, and the NFLPA is pushing for no suspension, on the basis of Robert Kraft getting away with what he got away with.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to touch on that too. They said that the examples that they used recently were Robert Kraft, Jerry Jones, and Daniel Snyder, which, I mean, Daniel Snyder itself, like, how that guy's still even an owner is beyond me. But I guess apparently, according to the NFL Code of Conduct, the higher up you are on the food chain, the higher moral code do you have to live your life by. So the fact that these guys are it's just like, you're the representative of the NFL, you're an NFL owner, and you should hold yourself to a higher moral standard. I mean, even than your players. Because let's be real, any sport's going to have, bad apples in the bunch, just how it is. But you're an NFL owner, you have to hold yourself to a higher moral standard. And the fact that these guys got slaps on the wrist, I was reading the same thing, that this could be DeShaun Watson's saving grace, which could limit his suspension. But also too, it's like one of those things where like all these cases keep coming out. Who's to say like this is it?
Yeah,
because they keep finding all this stuff, and it's.
Yeah, that was another thing that I was going to say. Like, I understand they want. I was watching the Pat McAfee show, and they were talking.
Bravo,
to,
good job.
Rappaport.
Rap sheet.
Yeah, and he was essentially breaking down what's going to occur with this. So they have a lady who I can't remember her name, but she's an arbiter. Arbiter? Is that what you call them? Arbitration?
Arbitrator.
So they're essentially what will happen is the NFL will show all the evidence that they have to her. The NFLPA will argue against said evidence with the examples of the owners like you were talking about. She'll give a recommendation on suspension as a third-party independent person, and then it ultimately comes down to Roger Goodell deciding how many games he gets suspended.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all very strange. So the lady could essentially come back and say no suspension.
Are you referring to the judge? I was reading it now.
Yeah.
Retired federal judge Sue L. Robinson.
There you go, Sue L. Robinson. Thank you. There was another thing I was going to touch on about this. No pun intended. Jeffrey Kessler is representing DeShaun Watson in the NFLPA. He's the guy that represented Tom Brady in Deflategate. And there's a couple other.
DeShaun Watson's also represented by Rusty Harden, who was doing that trotting Roger Clemens around when Clemens was fighting his the whole steroid thing back when he was still. I think it just retired. God, it seems like that was fucking ages ago now. But yeah, it was Clemens' attorney when all that steroid shit came down on Clemens too. He's a real piece of work.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is. Well, so is the lawyer representing the women. That guy gives me the creeps.
Most lawyers do.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of high-profile thing where there's like sexual harassment and possible sexual assault involved, it makes my skin crawl a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can. For one, I don't know how you can do that to somebody, and for two, like why when you have all that money, he's a handsome guy, too. So
and he's
like
rich.
He's rich. You don't need to sexually harass masseuses. Get a girlfriend who's a masseuse. I'm sure she would love to rub your groin for you.
I'm sure it's a power thing too.
Yeah, it probably is.
I don't know, like, so I mean, like, I guess the end game, the question I have is like, first off, I mean, what do you think? How long do you think he's going to be suspended for? I mean, neither one of us are experts in this field. We just play him on TV. But like, what do you think he's going to do? Like, what do you think is going to happen with him?
I think because of what baseball did with Trevor Bauer, I think they're going to go a full year.
You think he'll get a year?
I think he'll get a year.
I think what's going to happen is the NFL is going to recommend a year, and I think what they're banking on is they're going to overshoot what they're going to recommend, thinking that, okay, she's going to cut it down anyways, so why not overshoot it? And that way she kind of meets us somewhere to what we think is going to happen. I think it'll be 10 games.
Which
is almost the entire, like 3/4 of the season almost.
Yeah, they'd have 7 games left.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are, well, I mean, that roster's good as long as Brissett doesn't turn the ball over. Then Cleveland, like that's what happened when they went to the playoffs in that run.
Mm-hmm.
Is Baker Mayfield just didn't turn the ball over. He had the one game, the 2 games against Cincinnati where he looked like a world beater of a quarterback, but that was about it. But chances are Cleveland's going to be out of it by then anyway, so he'll probably end up sitting out the year anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, my next question for you is, do you think that this has any bearing on Cleveland trying to trade Baker Mayfield now? Do you think it's going to slow down the process? Like, hey, we could be potentially without him, without Watson for the year. Baker has taken us to the playoffs. I mean, most people are going to tell you that Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, much better quarterback than I am. Not dissing him, but do you think that somebody in like Cleveland tries to mend fences with Baker now? Because they've essentially got him for a year anyways. Not really going to have much bearing on the salary cap at this point anyway. So do you think that they're going to try to maybe mend fences with him, try to like, hey, just play out this season. This is probably your best shot of showcasing your skills on a winning team and being a starting quarterback. It's going to only improve you have a better shot of upping your value playing for us than you would be us trading you to Carolina, who's obviously Carolina doesn't really stand much of a shot. Let's be real. So, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. As much as I think that would make sense for both parties, I think the Browns could use Mayfield this year. And I think Mayfield could use the Browns. Mm-hmm. But I think that relationship's too broken.
You think?
I mean, they did essentially lie to him and say that, he was their guy going forward. And then they went out and when he was having surgery, they went out and paid $250 million for a guy that's probably not even going to play. Like that, if that doesn't show you your value to a franchise, I don't know what will. Right. Like they're willing to go out and get a guy that's going to be out for an entire fucking year over you. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I mean, I guess that was a wishful thinking question. I mean, I still think there's a potential. I mean, if I were Baker, though, I would seriously, I would start using this, hey, we can mend this. Because I think that's his best opportunity right now is to stay there, at least for right now, until this whole Watson thing shakes out. Of course, he could have him by the short curlies if they just say, okay, he's gone for the year.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think Baker Mayfield plays another down for the Browns.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Carolina trade will go through. Now, I think this gives Carolina even more leverage, in the sense that, that bond or that is so broken between Mayfield and them and the Browns that they're just trying to get rid of him. I mean, they dismissed him from camp. So I don't see any chance of him playing for him.
Well, how bad or how far has Baker Mayfield fallen from grace that he has gone from the quarterback that took the Browns to the Super Bowl, or not Super Bowl. I know that's wishful thinking. I think it's more of a movie scenario at this point, but took the Browns to the playoffs for the first time since what? Tim Couch was the quarterback? No, it's Kelly Holcomb.
Kelly Holcomb. Yep.
Sorry. Thank you. That's why I got you on. That's exactly why I brought you on here. It's like, okay, if anyone's going to be able to correct me on Brown shit, it'll be Lucas. But you go from being the quarterback that led the Browns to the playoffs and a playoff win, I may add,
Very true.
Where now there's rumblings you're going to get traded for Sam Darnold straight up.
God, that's rough. Sam Darnold's a fucking turd, too.
Sam Darnold stinks.
I think I would take Mayfield over him.
I would totally take Mayfield over Sam Darnold.
I just can't stand Baker Mayfield.
I know you don't. I don't like him as a player simply because being a fan of the Ohio State University, what he did at the Horseshoe when Oklahoma and Ohio State played, I will never forgive him for that. Yeah. And I always, even when I see those commercials he's in, I always kind of back in my head, get off the screen, motherfucker. But I still think he got a raw deal playing hurt. And, I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around. He should have said, hey, this isn't – he should have looked out for himself. Browns should have looked out for themselves, too. It was just a bad situation all around. I don't think he was as bad as he was last year. But
yeah, he may not be, but I don't think that's the reason nobody wants him. I think the reason nobody wants him is because he's a locker room cancer, or at least that's the rumor.
See, I was actually reading about that today, and actually, with the exception of the Odell Beckham shit, he's actually gotten a lot of praise for being a very positive locker room influence. I read 3 or 4 different stories about this from different sources saying, like, he's actually really good in the locker room. So I don't know if this is one of those things that has been spread around to kind of drive his trade value down, make him look like a piece of shit human being. I mean, he looks like the type of player that, because he has, like, he's a very fiery individual. Just from, like, he's like somebody that I would probably want to play for or play with, but I don't like him because he disrespected the shoe.
Yeah, understandable.
So, I mean, like, what's your feelings going into the season with potentially Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback and not having the $250 million man behind center?
Well, you got a really good defense, and you have everybody on offense that you really need, except for the quarterback. So, like I said, it's just a matter of him not turning the ball over. You know, maybe leading 1 or 2 game-winning drives, which I don't think he's capable of. Jacoby Brissett's not very good.
He's a very good backup quarterback. Let's preface that. I would probably say maybe if you were to rank the NFL starting quarterbacks, I would say maybe he's like 36th.
Is he the one that played for Indy that year?
He's played. Yeah, he was the Colts starting quarterback the year Andrew Luck abruptly retired.
Which he did some good things.
He did decently. That's why I'd say, like, obviously he's not an NFL. Well, you can probably put him in like maybe the low 30s. He might be like 30, 31, 32, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's in the 30 to 36 range. He's living in that neighborhood, you know, cul-de-sac area. Paper boy comes through, throws the paper on the front porch. He's living in a nice neighborhood.
2-story, maybe even 3.
Yeah, he's got a finished basement, 2-story house. He's got an in-ground pool, 3-4 car garage. He's doing all right for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of hope for them making the playoffs. Because, I mean, they have the AFC winning team in their division. So, and then I don't think Pittsburgh got much better, their quarterback situation. Even that rookie, talking to Jason Cheshire, our frequent guest on here, he was not happy about that draft pick.
When we talked about Kenny Pickett, I was expecting him to say he's like Carney's small hands smell like cabbage from Austin Powers.
And then there's Baltimore,
Baltimore's Baltimore every year. I never count against them.
Yeah. I mean, it makes no sense. They got rid of their best wide receiver. Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry, he's not a good quarterback. He can run away from everybody, but he's not a good quarterback. And now they're getting J.K. Dobbins back, so they're probably going to rush for like 500 yards a game.
I've always felt DeShaun Watson. That was actually a topic I was considering before all the last story that we're going to talk about. I was considering Chris Sims brought out his top NFL quarterbacks list. Chris Sims from Pro Football Talk.
Yeah,
and he had Lamar Jackson at 10, which I think is about right for him.
I don't know.
I think Lamar Jackson's a solid quarterback, but if you were to take him from Baltimore, how many of those quarterbacks are more important to their team than Lamar Jackson is to Baltimore? Not many.
No. Yeah, he's the driving force behind that team.
I don't know where they had DeShaun Watson. I don't know if their rankings was simply based on like your skill set, leadership abilities, being able to keep your shit in your pants.
Leave the fucking towel on.
Yeah, that, keeping the piece in the holster, like his score would be like a -20. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I personally, I have no respect for, I loved DeShaun Watson as a quarterback. I am not a Clemson guy. I thought he was a tremendous talent. I think he got overlooked going into the draft. I think he was a steal when the Texans got him. Never in a million years would I have thought that he was the person that he is. And I have trouble believing that this many people come forward and he isn't, he hasn't done something.
Yeah.
And I think personally, at least a year. He should get it, but winning takes precedence over anything, and he's a marketable name, and this will get swept under the rug. Like, I see Browns fans all the time. Like, they don't give a shit that he did this to women. It's like, he better be throwing fucking Njoku the ball 15 times a game.
Yeah, I'm not like a sweep it under the rug type of guy.
It'll be forgotten. It'll be forgotten if
it will be
next year. Yeah, they'll forget all about it. So
if he takes the Browns to a Super Bowl, nobody's gonna ever even know that he ever did anything wrong. He's gonna be in the fucking Ring of Honor. He'll be in the Football Hall of Fame. All that stuff.
Okay, last question for you before we go into the next story. If DeShaun Watson wins a Super Bowl with the Browns, who's the bigger Cleveland hero, DeShaun Watson or LeBron James?
DeShaun Watson.
I was going to say the same thing.
Because even though there was, 2 million people out for that parade for the basketball team when they won the championship, there would be 10 million.
Yeah, I would say Cleveland's
people.
a football town.
It's 100% a football town. I mean, the Indians, good team. Hell, they were in the World Series. 2016? Is that when it was? 2014?
That 2016. Don't remind
2016.
me. 2016. I drank a lot of booze to get through that week.
So, I mean, they embrace them too, but they're not. Nothing is the Cleveland Browns. Everybody in Cleveland is a Browns fan. Some people in Cleveland are Guardians and Cavs fans. Hello?
I dialed my mom's phone by mistake, and I guarantee you she's going to call me here in just a moment.
Oh, man. Potato Rita.
Yeah, I was getting ready to queue up a video clip, and then I hit my phone by mistake. So, yeah, my mom's probably going to be calling me in a second. Did you call?
Are you okay?
Everything all right? Yeah, like I was going to say the same thing. Like, I guess that's the sickening side to sports to an extent, is just like, at the end of the day, as long as you win, a lot of shit will get swept under the rug.
Well, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, I don't know, time's relative with me. I don't sleep these days with 2 babies, but the Karl Malone stories, that thing I sent you where that guy is just the biggest piece of fucking shit in the world. But nobody cares because he was the mailman.
Yeah. Yeah, he delivered.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit how big of a piece of shit he is,
Mm-hmm. Speaking of pieces of shit, the last sports story in our world that I want to talk about is on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday evening, I want to say. Wednesday evening, the Wall Street Journal dropped a bombshell of a report where WWE owner Vince McMahon paid a paralegal who he had an extramarital affair with $3 million to keep her mouth shut.
Jesus Christ.
Mom.
Oh, there's old Ma Rita.
Yep, there it was. I knew she was going to call. Adam, can you edit that out, please? $3 million payout. Had an extramarital affair with his paralegal. She had apparently gotten a $100,000 raise while this affair was going on. And also Vince McMahon apparently decided to share the goods, per se, with head of talent relations John Laurinaitis.
Oh, all right.
So, yeah, there's
business at both ends, huh?
Yeah. I'm going to bring up, this is from the Wall Street Journal through Yahoo Sports. An investigation by the WWE Board of Directors has uncovered a secret $3 million settlement paid out by Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon to hide an affair with a former employee, according to the Wall Street Journal's Joe Palozzo and Ted Mann. The employee in question was reportedly hired as a paralegal in 2019 and left after signing a separation agreement, barring her from discussing the relationship. There's a ton of claims of misconduct by former employees about Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis, and apparently there's been quite a few payouts as such. I guess McMahon used
Mom.
There it goes again. She's probably fucking worried sick. Apparently she... Sorry, I'm just trying to read this. I kind of skimmed through all this stuff pretty quick when we were putting this episode together tonight because this is kind of on the fly.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, he apparently the findings preliminary say that he paid out of his own pocket with his own money, but still, this is not a very good look. Then stories this morning that he had stepped down from his role as the chairman and CEO on an interim basis and was replaced by his daughter, Stephanie, who recently took a leave of absence from the company as well. And then, this is probably about 6 hours before they went live, but Vince McMahon decided to appear on SmackDown tonight. And I'm going to just say I don't think this went over very well. I think this is very poor taste, but I'll play did you see the clip?
I saw some of it, yeah. It is poor taste.
All right, well, I'm going to play the clip for the fans at home. Let you decide, and I'll give you my thoughts on it here real quick. This is from Ryan Satin's Twitter account.
I'm here simply to remind you of the 4 words we just saw and what we call the WWE signature. Those 4 words are then, now, forever, and the most important word is together.
That's all he said, and he fucking split. That's it. No acknowledgement of what happened. I wasn't expecting him to come out and apologize, but I think if you're going to come out and say something like that, or if you're going to announce hey, I'm going to be on the show, I figured you were at least acknowledging, that you're going to say something about it. And I think it was just kind of a real cheap ploy to get people to tune in.
Yeah, and it probably was. I mean, he's a businessman. That's all he does. He doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't even give a shit what his wife thinks. And it makes me wonder. So, go ahead.
Oh, I guess, yeah, apparently the rumor is that both of them are separated right now. I guess they've been for a little while.
I would not be surprised if Stephanie stepped down because she heard these allegations before they were made public. And, she just needed to get away from the whole thing. And then obviously, I think stepping back in as the CEO, I wanted to ask you, so WWE is a publicly traded company.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that the shareholders could possibly force Vince out?
Well, here's the thing, though. Vince McMahon controls a significant amount of WWE stock. I mean, to where, I think it's a 70-30 split. So I don't think they really have, I don't know if they could force him out. It would be, he said he's agreed to accept whatever this committee finds. But I think it would take quite a bit, and I think it would probably have to go to, I'm not, once again, not a legal expert. I would imagine something like that would have to go through the courts to get him out.
So I wonder if their stock tanks enough.
I think they're going to have stock. I think their prices are going to go down. But the thing of it is, though, man, that company makes so much money hand over fist between, even if their stocks took a shit, they get so much of this money from TV rights and stuff that it's not going to be enough to where some fucking multimillionaire is it looks like I'm making $70 million instead of 70.25 off of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I almost wonder if Stephanie too, maybe if not stepped away from the role because she was upset. Maybe if she's like, she knew this was coming down.
Well,
she
apparently
stepped away
this has
from
been
that
known
role.
since April, and she stepped down in May. So I don't want to speculate, but I would not be the least bit surprised if that did not have quite a bit to do with her stepping down.
And I wonder if she stepped down from that role so that she could take over CEO because she knew that Vince was going to step down for a minute. And I wonder if she's almost going to be, if Vince maybe just to level out the stock, because even though you said, he makes so much money, businessmen never make enough, billionaires never make enough money. So I almost wonder if she'll be like a puppet CEO and he'll really still be running all the shit.
I was just getting ready to say that. What we seen tonight, that's exactly what that says to me. So he came out, hey, I stepped down, but I'm still running the fucking show around here. He's actually still head of creative. He stepped down from, and I don't know if anybody watched SmackDown tonight, but tonight's SmackDown episode was pretty evident he's still in charge of creative. It's the same piss poor booking that has plagued the WWE for quite a while. But that whole display tonight is totally told me anyways. It said to me that, hey, I'm still in charge. Despite what I say, I'm still running shit around here.
Yeah, and so I wonder if she'll be CEO for a while until it dies down because it's sports and we all have the attention span of a month or two for most things. So once that's done, just like DeShaun Watson, it'll all get swept under the rug. It'll all be forgotten. Nobody will give a shit. So,
well, I think at the end of the day, I don't think anything's going to nothing's going to happen to him. Because, I mean, if he paid out of his own money, granted, it doesn't make what he did right. It's completely wrong. I mean, he did give her a raise out of WWE funds, like the company funds, a substantial raise at that. Like, $100,000 a year raise.
For a paralegal.
I've never sniffed $100,000 in a year, period, let alone a bump of over $100,000. But
right.
I honestly, I think it's one of those things where I guess it's the founder and a CEO of a very prominent. I think the more shocking story is just the fact that somebody who essentially creates entertainment for families is caught in something like this.
Honestly, that almost sounds like what always happens. It's always some kind of controversy with some kind of family. I mean, fuck, Bill Cosby was a family show.
Right.
And the man was raping women.
Right.
So,
and I think that's where most of this story is coming from, is the fact that it's like, okay, you got a guy that creates essentially programming for kids. And people that have followed the wrestling industry for years should know by now that you could devote an entire season, I would guess, of Dark Side of the Ring just to the shady shit Vince McMahon's done. I'm sure there's tons of shit that we don't know about that could probably be uncovered, that he's probably done. I've never looked at him as like a saint. And I think that's where a lot of the sensationalism comes from, is this fact, like, okay, there's a guy that creates content for families. Family man himself, not so much. So,
yeah.
I personally think that John Laurinaitis is probably going to be the scapegoat in this. He's probably going to be the one that takes the fall for this.
Guarantee it. But, I mean, people have hated John Laurinaitis for years anyway, so a lot of people in the industry will probably be like, he deserved that. But, yeah, you're right. Vince McMahon is not going to take – and like I said, with the attention span of the world – it's
just going to be the next news story.
Yeah. I mean, shit, tomorrow we won't even hear about any more of it.
I'm sure there's going to be some backlash for a few days just because of the tone deaf, like him coming out and just being tone deaf to the whole situation.
Yeah, you were talking about.
I was actually kind of sickened by like people were just like, the people in the crowd were just like eating it up. The fact that he showed up, it's like, okay, this guy cheated on his wife. Probably not the first time, probably not the last time. paid somebody to shut up just so, and then he passed this woman around to his head of talent relations. Like, essentially the way it was described is he passed her around like a toy. He was sharing a toy with a friend.
Yeah, and
people are just eating it up. Like, oh, fuck it, I don't care. I'm here. I want to see Matt Riddle beat Roman Reigns.
And it was just like you were talking about DeShaun Watson, a power trip thing.
Mm-hmm.
People that are, at least this is how I view it, people that are substantially wealthy, so multimillionaires, multi-billionaires, they don't live in the real world like the rest of us do. They have their own set of rules that they get to live by, and it doesn't matter what the common person thinks. None of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't live by the same rules. Like, you think Vince McMahon gives a shit that he pissed off Linda McMahon by cheating on her? I highly doubt it.
No, he probably looks at it like she wouldn't be where she's at without him, or something like that.
Right. Yeah, and it's just it's one of those things where they just don't live in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't.
Right.
Most of them earn the right to, have a little bit of stroke because they've made that money, but not to the point of being a piece of shit human being.
Right. Yeah, I have a feeling by the time Survivor Series rolls around, it probably won't even. This is a small blip on the radar.
Yeah, he'll be back as the CEO by then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with these sports dudes. Like, man, it's not that hard to walk the straight line, man. Just because you got money doesn't mean you have to be a piece of shit human being, especially the opposite sex,
Right, and I don't know where I thought we were getting better as a society with equality between men and women, but it's pretty obvious that there's still a power trip from men towards women and an imbalance, and it sucks.
Yeah. The other big story out of do you want to touch on Jeff Hardy at all, or?
Yeah, we can.
Jeff Hardy who has struggled quite infamously with substance abuse one point during a pay-per-view event for Total Nonstop Action, showed up drunk, was busted for DUI once again on Monday. He was charged with driving on a suspended license and violating a restriction which required him to have a DUI interlock device in his vehicle. And actually, I was reading today that on Wednesday night's Dynamite, the main event was scheduled to be the Hardy Boys, which is Matt and Jeff, the Young Bucks, and Jurassic Express in a ladder match for the tag team titles. And after what happened to did you end up watching any Double or Nothing? I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't end up watching it.
Well, Jeff Hardy looked like he had gotten shaken up pretty bad, or he wasn't quite right for that match with the Young Bucks. He just didn't look very good. So they sent him in to get a scan of his brain to see what was going on. And I guess they were going to write them out of the show to where they were going to have him come out, get jumped by somebody, and took him out of the match. So it was always going to be, I guess as of Monday, it was going to be just Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks. But I guess he was driving to his brain scan under the influence.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick on him at all, because it's clearly a horrible problem for him.
Well, addiction's a hard problem for anybody. I mean, I've, knock on wood, have never been a victim or struggled with that. I always count myself very fortunate not to do so. So I can't speak for people that struggle with it. I can't imagine the hell that you have to go through to live with that every day. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I grew up with an alcoholic, two of them actually. Both of my parents were severe alcoholics when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So I see what alcohol, like addiction, does to somebody. It essentially takes over their life, and they don't feel like they can function without it. Mm-hmm. So I feel incredibly sad for him. and his family. He got clean for a long time, and then he went back to WWE, and clearly that struck a nerve with him. And I think it carried over to AEW because, WWE was trying to send him to rehab. And I remember there was an episode of Matt Hardy's podcast where they were essentially mocking the WWE for trying to do that because he passed a drug test that they gave him. But I think they were trying to send him there for alcohol, not drugs, which he also has a pass of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy's beat the shit out of his body for our entertainment for almost 30 years now, right? 25 years?
Yeah,
something
at
like
least,
that.
yeah.
So I think it set him off. There's like certain triggers that people have even after they get clean, and I think going back to WWE was probably the worst thing for him as far as addiction goes. And I think it carried over to AEW, and he got caught, drinking and driving. The man's got a problem. And the only person really, I mean, you can go to rehab all you want, but the only person that can really turn it around is him, and clearly he's not ready for that yet. So,
yeah, I just think that the abuse he's done to himself over the years, and honestly, like, I don't think it was. I personally think it's the shit he's been doing in AEW that might have been the trigger for this, because I don't know if you've seen some of the shit he's done in AEW, but like, he has put himself through the fucking ringer since he's showed up there. Did you see the ladder spot with Darby Allin?
Yeah, on the chairs. Yeah.
Yeah, and just I personally think it just seems like he always has these instances when you could just tell that he is just not right physically, and it just makes me wonder if he's just not, like, he can't cope with the pain that he's in, so this is how he's medicating himself. I mean, I am a Jeff Hardy fan, the Hardy Boys. Like, I've always considered that that Attitude Era of tag team wrestling to be the best tag team wrestling in the history of wrestling as long as I've been alive. I mean, there's so many great tag teams that came out of that division. I honestly don't think there's anything left for him to prove. He's done everything you can do in the business. I can kind of see the sentimental value of wanting to have one last run with his brother, who also anymore doesn't seem like he is in the greatest of shape either.
Yeah.
I think it's time for him to give it up. I mean, just for his personal well-being. I hate seeing him struggle like this. I hate seeing anybody struggle like this. And I really think that once you've hit rock bottom, is like, I would imagine getting busted, a public figure getting busted for DUI, it's got to be close to rock bottom as you can get.
Yeah, and this is his third one. I forget, there was another charge. It was like third one within so many years or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he has to have a locking mechanism on his car, this isn't
essentially a breathalyzer to be able to start it, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's had tons of issues with this, but it's just one of those things where, like, I would think that, well, personally, if you get embarrassed on live television during a pay-per-view, you're obviously drunk. That would be like rock bottom of rock bottom, but
especially when you're going against a legend like Sting, like that's it's a big moment. He's only had so many big moments. He had that match with the Undertaker during the Attitude Era. That was with that ladder match. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. He earned the respect,
right?
Of the Undertaker and stuff.
I mean, it's just one of those things where how much I think for like guys in that industry who thrive off of the reaction they get from a crowd, it's one of those things. And if you're struggling with stuff like substance abuse, it's like how often, or like how is the feeling that you get from getting a crowd reaction, like, is it worth the existential stuff to where you not only could have killed yourself, you could have killed somebody else driving. He's got a family. I don't understand, like, is the rush worth all that? And I guess that's the thing that he's going to have to eventually struggle with and come to a conclusion. It's like, okay, is getting the adulation of thousands of fans. Which fuck now he's only wrestling once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
5 times a month, 6 if there's a pay-per-view.
Well, they're doing indie shows too.
I forgot they are. Yeah, matter of fact, I think Matt's supposed to be. They were supposed to be doing a big event for AAA tomorrow, which Matt is still doing it with a surprise tag team partner.
Yeah, it just, to me, what it looks like is when The Undertaker kept coming back at WrestleMania year after year, and every year it just looked way worse, and he was way slower because his body was just so beat up. That's what it feels like with the Hardy Boys right now. Like, they think they can do it mentally, but physically, like, watching Matt Hardy get up off the mat to where his right leg is like straight because he can't even fucking bend it.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks to watch because, I love those TLC matches and everything that those guys did to entertain me for years. I appreciate it. I really do. Like, the wrestlers, thank you for everything you've done, because you guys have really torn yourselves up for us. But at some point, you have to know when you're done.
Right. It's when is enough. And that's a lot of guys struggle with that. Well, fuck, Ric Flair is doing another retirement match. There's a huge wrestling convention called StarCast, which I've always wanted to go to. The guy that does a lot of the big wrestling podcast in the industry, like Bruce Pritchard's Something to Wrestle With. Jim Ross has Grilling JR. He's got one with Kurt Angle, Tony Schiavone. He's a big player in the wrestling podcast industry. He puts on this convention, and his father-in-law is actually Ric Flair. He's married to Ric Flair's oldest daughter, I believe. Ric Flair's doing a retirement match at this convention.
Yeah, I saw, and the man's got a fucking pacemaker. Like, he could die in this match.
Right. And that's just another prime example. I mean, Ric Flair's, I seen something about, like, how often is Ric Flair going to tarnish his legacy? And it's like, he had the perfect send-off with his WrestleMania match at Shawn Michaels. You came back from that. I mean, it's pretty much, I don't even remember that now. Yeah, I remember Ric Flair more now for the run in TNA and, like, the attempts to come back after that more than I do the fucking heyday of Nature Boy Ric Flair, and even, like, the retirement match with Shawn Michaels. It sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. It's sad. I understand, like, time has seemed like it's flown by since the Attitude Era, since 97, since 96, 97, 98, that area. Mm-hmm. I can't believe how long ago that was.
Right.
It's crazy that my daughter is 21. She wasn't even alive yet for the Attitude Era.
Right.
Like, that's fucking nuts to me. And there's things like, I just turned 35. There's things that I think that I could still do. I go out and I shoot a basketball with my stepdaughter, and I got to take a fucking day off after that because I hurt my hamstring or something.
Right.
So it's just, I understand that you think you can still do it and you want to still do it, but it's time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you and I can't see it from the lenses either. That I'm sure that I've never been able to experience a rush like that where you have tens of thousands of people, like, absolutely adore you, that have paid money to watch you do what you're good at and love it. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't speak to how that feeling is. So, I mean, I guess I could see it, but it's like at the same time, too, eventually there's always going to be, like in the wrestling industry or whatever, there's always the one opponent you will never beat, and that's Father Time.
Yep. Well said.
So, well, I had one last thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap this up. Real quick, Dave Hebner, former WWE referee, who is I consider him and his twin brother Earl to be kind of like the Mills Lane of professional wrestling. You always kind of knew that it was a big match if one of those two guys was the referee. you would probably, I don't know, this might be a little before your time, but some people listening will probably remember Dave Hebner best as there was a big wrestling program on NBC used to do Saturday Night's Main Event. It used to be a big thing.
It was before my time, but I know.
Yeah, it used to be. They would do it like maybe once every quarter. It was like it was usually like a big house show that they taped. They just made it for TV, but they did a special Friday night version of it. It aired in primetime called The Main Event, and this particular one was the first one they did. It was Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan in a rematch from WrestleMania 3. And essentially this is notorious for, they did this swerve where Earl and Dave Hebner are twins. They look exactly alike. Can't tell the difference. And what happened is Dave was supposed to be the referee. You come to find out that he has been tied up and locked into a closet, and the $1 Million Man has actually bought his brother off, and his brother helped Andre the Giant beat Hulk Hogan for the world title, which was a huge thing because, I mean, Hulk Hogan had been the champion for like 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. As a matter of fact, that version of The Main Event is still the highest rated wrestling program to run on broadcast television, and that was in 1988. I mean, granted, they don't run wrestling on TV as much, but you know, you consider Monday Night Raw and you know all those, like it's still the highest rated wrestling show to ever run on TV. Shit, almost 40 years.
Well, but those two also transcended wrestling. You know, they were known actors as well. So
yeah,
maybe not as much Hulk Hogan. He was more but everybody knew who he was.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, still it was still a huge deal, and like Dave Hebner was part of that. He passed away today at age 73. I guess he had been battling Parkinson's disease for a while. Still kind of a bummer way to the end of the program, but this has also been like a shit show week, shitty people. So why not just cap the episode off like that? Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Nope. Happy to be back. Sorry that I had to take some time away, but
well, you know what? I wasn't expecting to take time off either, but you know, I tried to record while we were on vacation, and I tried 2 different cords to hook my microphone up to my iPhone. Did not work like the internet said it was going to. So thanks a fucking lot, Google, for lying to me. And then,
son of a bitch.
And the motherfucker known as COVID hit the house and kind of put a clamp on it then. But I guess it's poetic that I make my return when you make your return.
I think so.
But we'll be start pumping these back out every Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So we'll be back on schedule now.
Sounds good. Can't wait to keep talking about shit with you.
All right. Well, until then, we will talk to you guys later. And that's going to put a bow on today's episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. We hope you all enjoyed today's episode as much as we did recording it. Lucas and I had a blast. Nice getting back in the saddle with my old running buddy. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We do appreciate the love, and it makes us a little bit more easier to find for folks that are in search of awesome content such as the Couch Potato Podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram or on Twitter, which is where we seem to be the most active at. You can find us at couchbrotatopodcast on Twitter. We're going to drop a new episode, I think, since this one's coming out a little later. I think we're going to wait till Thursday night or Friday. Me and producer Adam are actually going to hop on. We're going to give our thoughts and opinions on the Disney Plus limited series Obi-Wan, which I've been looking forward to. I need to catch up on a couple episodes, but we're going to give our full recap and review, give our thoughts on the show itself, which I think the last episode runs this Wednesday. I think it's a 6-run episode. I don't know. Well, if they've got more episodes, I do apologize. We'll do something else. Who knows? But until next week, we will talk to you guys later.